I testified in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, the Subcommittee on Africa, and I discussed Russia's growing influence on the African continent and how that influence affects U.S. national security interests there. The main point that I wanted people to take away was that Russia has strategy towards Africa, but is also acting very opportunistically to advance those strategies. It is preying upon weak states, fragile states, and states in a state of political turmoil. That's where Washington needs to be really focusing its efforts to shore up both democratic principles in those countries, but also taking steps to combat the kinds of tactics that Russia is employing there around propaganda, disinformation, and meddling in the local political environments. Russia is set to host the second Russia-Africa summit at the end of July. And so this comes at a very timely opportunity where we have seen Russia acting in a more overt way, trying to bring those political relationships into the light of day, using the Ukraine war as a kind of wedge between Africa and the West. So right now, I think is a critical moment for Russia's strategy to break its international isolation as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. So it's really important that Washington be paying attention to what's going on the continent as directed by the Russians right now. I think my biggest takeaway from the hearing was how aggressive tactics to roll back Russia would actually have potentially adverse consequences for our relationships in Africa. Our African partners have been telling us that they don't want to be made to choose between the United States and Russia. They don't want to be the subjects of a kind of Cold War competition between these two great powers. And so I think the word of caution that I offered to the Congress is as much as we might be trying to combat or roll back Russian malign influence, we have to be sensitive to the local context that we do it in, sensitive to the needs and the agency of our African partners, and not treat them as pawns in a great power competition. For more on my testimony and this critical issue, please visit csis.org.